Welcome to Impact Farming, where we introduce you to the people and ideas that will have a massive impact on your farming operation. Brought to you by Farm Marketer. Sit down, start the engine, and let's roll with today's show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Impact Farming Show. Today, we have an amazing guest. We have Aimée Stang from Farm Credit Canada. How are you?
I'm great, Tracy. How are you?
Good. I am so excited to have you on the show to talk about Farm Credit Canada's podcast and the exciting things you guys have in the works. So welcome, welcome.
Thanks
Are
for having
you
me.
ready?
Yes, let's do this.
Okay. Good. So before we dive in, you are show host for the Talking Farm and Food podcast. Do you want to tell our audience a little bit about who you are, what you do, and then we'll go from there?
Sounds good. So I grew up in a farming family in northeastern Saskatchewan, and I've been working at FCC for 19 years now. So it's a long time. I don't look that old, but
no.
Anyhow, it's been a fun 19 years, mostly in marketing. My title is content marketing program manager. So I'm responsible for developing articles and resources, and we're working with people to get these developed, and also our podcast, as you mentioned, to tackle important farm management topics that producers across Canada want to read and listen to and watch. That's kind of the nutshell of my job. Personally, I'm married to a farmer also, and we live on a grain farm. We started off in cattle, but the cows got sold. And now we're just strictly crops, grains, oilseeds, pulse crops. And we farm with my in-laws, about 9,000 acres. So that keeps us busy too. And we have two little boys. So I'm fully living the farm life.
Wow. Yeah. From all aspects. What area of Alberta are you again?
I'm in Saskatchewan, but I'm close to Alberta border. That's okay. Yeah. I'm in Saskatchewan. I'm like literally 10 minutes from the Alberta border. So close to Alberta. We're in West Central Saskatchewan.
Okay. That's why I think last time we were chatting, you mentioned close to Alberta. So I was thinking Alberta.
Yeah. That's fine.
So you are the show host for season 4 of FCC's podcast. Do you want to talk to our audience? Let's say somebody's watching and they've not tuned in. Can you share more about your podcast, the general theme, how many seasons, all that type of stuff, the episodes, guests you interview?
Sure. Thanks, Tracy. Yeah. So the podcast is called Talking Farm and Food. And it's a monthly podcast. We just dropped our first episode of the 4th season last month in September. Okay. And we mostly focus on farm management topics that are important to Canadian farming families, mostly. I mean, farm businesses. And we delve into lots of topics, transition, business management, HR issues, women in ag, lots of topics that impact today's farming businesses. And we talk to farmers, and we also talk to industry experts from Canada.
You guys do amazing content.
Oh, thank you.
You really do. I love it. Yeah. Okay. So season 4, do you guys have a main theme for this year, or is it just a general assortment?
It's an assortment of topics. Last year, we really leaned into the transition topic. That's a hot topic. We know in our content that people want to talk about that at our events. People want to talk about it. We get lots of questions about that. And so we did a whole series last year on the different steps. Each episode was a step of the transition process. And we had our business advisors delve into these different steps, I guess. And so now this season, we've resumed a more conversational format with one-on-one with our guests. We will still talk about transition, but it'll probably be more woven into some other business topics that we're talking about. So it's going to be more casual conversations with farmers. There's nothing a farmer likes to listen to than to talk or there's nothing a farmer likes to do than to talk to another farmer.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of the vibe I'm going for this season, which we've done in the past too. So I want to carry that on this season.
Excellent. So
Mhm.
you have your first episode out, as you mentioned. It dropped
Yes.
last month. It was with Evan Shout, who
Yes.
is awesome. We've had him on the show.
Yeah.
I'm curious, you are a new show host. What's your experience been like? What are you enjoying?
I'm loving it. I
Yeah.
think the only thing that's challenging is trying to get recording dates with farmers, because over the summer and fall it's a little bit challenging. And everybody always feels bad I can't meet you right now, but it's fine. I'm married to a farmer. I know we can figure this out. So it's not that big of a deal. It's just the people feel bad, and
Yeah.
trying to plan that around that. But otherwise it's amazing. I get to talk to farmers from across the country without having to leave my farm. So that's awesome. I just love hearing all the stories of different innovative things that people have done in their business. No two farm is alike, as you well know. And there's multiple ways to tackle any challenge. So some of the things that that are being brought forward are super cool ideas that people could consider for their own operation or leave. I mean, sometimes it doesn't apply to you, but there's always, I think, a nugget of something useful in every episode to ponder. So I come away from all these conversations really feeling inspired about the future of our industry and the people who are leading the charge.
Nice. So you guys are going to be doing a mix of professionals and farmers as show guests. Is that what your format's
Yeah,
gonna
this season is mostly farmers.
be? Okay.
We might have a professional in there, but we've had lawyers, and we've had lawyers and accountants
Okay.
and other business advisors on the show. This year we're mostly talking with farmers, but
Okay.
that doesn't mean that we're not going to talk to other professionals as well.
Okay. Good. I wanted to clarify that.
Mm-hmm.
And then what did you say? Do you do monthly episodes?
Yeah,
Okay.
monthly. So right now the plan is to have 7 episodes this season,
Okay.
and yeah, it's gonna be good. As you know, there's a lot of work that goes in the background of getting a podcast scheduled and planned and edited and sounding good.
Yes.
So it's a big process, but it's a good process, and it's worth it. I think I love listening to podcasts. I'm listening to podcasts all the time, so I just find that it's such a good way to have a conversation with someone and just be more relatable and really have and feel like you're having coffee with somebody. I mean, I think that's a sign for me for a really good podcast, is like you're just sitting at the coffee shop having a chinwag with someone.
Nice. I like it. I have been listening to podcasts since I launched Farm Marketer. So like just about 17 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And I would say by far, podcasting has been what has helped me launch this company and keep on going, right? When you meet challenges or you need different information or you're just stuck on something, there's so many amazing podcasts out there. Like I will sing the praises of podcasts and of course video shows to the skies and back. And it's just been such a game changer for me. That's why I launched this podcast 7 years ago, because I'm like, let's bring this to agriculture. So
Right.
I'm curious, you love podcasting, and I'm assuming you have your favorites. Do you find any differences about podcasting, kind of, let's call it mainstream, and podcasting in agriculture?
Well, I guess it depends on what you're like. I mean, there's a genre for every kind of interest, right? I'm probably one of the 5% that doesn't listen to true crime podcasts.
I don't either. No.
Okay, so you and I have that in common.
Yeah.
I really like psychology podcasts, and I have kids, so parenting podcasts and stuff like that, right? And marketing podcasts, because I have a marketing background. So those are what are really interesting to me. And I find that the ones that I really enjoy are the ones, there's 2 things. One is the ones where it's like a conversation and you just kind of are maybe not eavesdropping, but you're kind of invited to listen in on this conversation that people are just casually having. And the other one is I used to work in social media at FCC, and I would call those truth bombs. So, when you're listening to something, you're like, yes, it's true. I'm not the only one that thinks this way. And that is like, I've had a few fist raising moments when I listen to my favorite podcast too. So that's kind of what I want to achieve too with this podcast, is that a lot of the challenges that producers are going through is not unique.
Yes.
There's many unique ways to handle or to address these challenges, but the challenges themselves are not very unique. And I think there's a lot of value and a lot of support, or maybe just it's a good feeling to know that you're not the only one that is dealing with this particular challenge, right?
Yes. You know what? That's what, other than the learning, that's what I've loved most about podcasting, because whether you're a farmer, a business person in marketing, whatever, especially as an entrepreneur, it's a pretty lonely journey. And if you're sitting in a tractor, you're by yourself for the most part. You have family and maybe staff around, whoever it is, but it's so easy, like you just said, to get caught up in your head and think it's a you problem and you're the only one going through. And sorry to jump in there, I love that you said that though. That makes me passionate, because that's, for me, the joy of podcasting and why I wanted to bring this to the industry. Because when you're in such a lonely profession, it can be, we talk about mental health. But you look at that, if you can turn on a podcast and hear a business concept or somebody saying the markets are bad, these farmers are having a bad year, let's say a mental health episode, and you're a farmer sitting in the tractor, and you can hear somebody having that conversation and you can relate to them. To me, I think that's life-changing. And I know podcast episodes where I'm struggling with something as a business person, right? And I'm going, oh my goodness, what's wrong with me? And then you hear them say that. And it's like that, like, drop your shoulders moment where you're like, oh, I'm not the only one. And that's
not me.
Yeah, it's not me. It's not me just going through this. It's not me just having a hard time where the markets are terrible. Of course, it's not you, but we get wrapped up in our heads, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That's what I love. I think there's just so much power in podcasting. And I love that you guys do such great business content for farmers. So we have a mutual journey in podcasting.
Yeah, and I was going to mention the other thing too. No, this is actually good, because I was really curious about your experience. There's not a lot of people. The podcasting side of agriculture is growing, but there's not a lot of people. It's very niche, and there's not a lot of people in that genre. So it's interesting to get the perspective of other people that are experiencing that and going through it, and interviewing similar guests. Yeah. The other thing that I think is interesting or unique about agriculture is that we have a captive audience. From a certain amount of time, mostly. I mean, if you're a crop farmer, so you're sitting in a tractor or a combine or a tractor pulling an air drill for hours on end. Nothing against AM radio, but eventually you might want to switch to something else, or and I'm like that too. Sometimes I want to listen to music. Sometimes I just want to give my mind something else to think about, or so it's nice to have that option. And then you have a captive audience for literally the full hour. They're probably not going to be interrupted. They might be, but it's a nice option to have.
Well, and there's things too, and I'm going to ask you right away. I'm curious what your most popular episodes are, but there are things that are just as much as we're running a business and as much as farmers are people and will listen to non-agriculture content, there is stuff that's very, very unique to agriculture. So like you said, captive audience. I'm curious, you're going into 4 seasons. In the past, what episodes have you found are most popular among your audience?
Well, we've done a gradual growth of our listeners, but I just, from looking at some of the numbers and the comments we've received on our platforms, some of the soft skills have been very popular, or the softer topics, like women in ag. We've done 2 episodes on women in ag. I'm doing another one I just recorded this week, and I think that's a topic that's never going to go away. And it sounds kind of weird that it would be a business topic at first glance or first brush, but to me, it is a very big business topic, because most farms have women on them. And And are we leveraging their skills and their talents, and how is industry leveraging their skills and talents, and how are we getting more women involved in the industry and contributing in ways that are meaningful to them and to us. And so I don't think this topic's going to go away. And I think a lot of people, again, with the fist bump, it resonates with them too. So the episode I recorded this week, it was 2 farm women talking. It was myself and another person. I'm not going to say who because I don't want to be a spoiler alert, but I'm really excited about it. And I think there's going to be some good takeaways from that too. So that's one of them. Transition is always a huge topic. I mean, again, I think that's emotionally charged. And I think sometimes you just need to diffuse that by knowing you're not alone, and to maybe have some concrete next steps too of what you can do, because it's a huge beast to tackle, right? And so even we don't have a specific transition episode planned, but it's woven into a lot of our content, almost all of the episodes. So there will be takeaways, and I think there'll be some good insights I know there'll be some good insights for people going through that process as well too, because that's pretty much a continual process anyhow.
Nice.
So those are kind of the big ones. What else did I see from popular? Yeah, just basically anything that's real honest. I feel like the things that are real honest conversation where people are like, maybe not necessarily vulnerable, but kind of say things as they are, those tend to resonate more with people. So getting back to the truth bombs where people are saying, yeah, that's exactly how it is. If you're nodding along, then I think that resonates when people are seen and the content is resonating with them.
Nice. I think for our podcasts, it's transition planning and the mental health ones too.
Yep.
I like to cover that. You and I were both farmers, right? We know how challenging it can be, and our industry needs support there, and we need to talk about it. So I think those are always like shoulder drop, right? For farmers, it's like, I'm not the only one stressed to the max and wanting to quit every second day because the market's crashed. No, you're not. This is normal, right?
Yep. Or you're working with family. I mean, that tends to be a popular topic along all of our content is like, and Evan said that to me too when we did our interview, like families have probably the worst HR, because as if you're going to like have a strategy to deal with your brother or your dad or your sister, right?
Yeah.
But you probably should.
I'm writing you up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's all connected. It's all these topics are interconnected in so many ways. So the more we can make those connections, the better I think the listening experience is going to be, and the better conversations we're going to have, and the more we're going to move the industry forward.
Yeah. I love that you said earlier the soft skills. And every time I have a guest that says, oh, the soft skills, it fires me up, because I find it's quite ironic, because to me, I would call those the hard skills, right? Because producers, I mean, we're all good at our craft, right? Whether that's farming or marketing, sales, whatever it is. But I think we can all agree that probably dealing with people, because we're all unique and we're all special personalities, and then you add in the element of farming, I think that is the hardest part. And every time somebody says soft skills, it sounds so easy, so soft.
Or feminine.
Or feminine. Yeah. It's like, no, those are the skills. And I totally agree with you. I think, and especially around the transition planning, I don't know what you find, and I'm sure you guys are talking about this over at FCC, but we have a lot of work to do as an industry for transition planning, right? Yeah. And to me, okay, there's people to see, there's resources out there, but I think, and I've had a few people echo this, I'm curious your thoughts. I think a lot of what's holding the industry up is those soft skills. How to start the conversation with dad and mom, how to bring that up, how to deal with off-farm siblings. All of those are like, honestly, I'm a communicator. I'm not going to say I'm a fantastic communicator, like people-wise, I'd like to think I'm decent. But all of those things for an industry, for a farm family, to bring that up and try and tackle that without knowing the steps, it's scary. all those conversations are scary, right?
And that's the number one thing I've noticed too in some of our events, like especially when we were doing online during COVID days, that was the question that was coming in on transition, like how do I even start this conversation? Nobody wants to talk about this. And that question just keeps coming up. And we've got content on that on our website and in our previous editions of our podcast and videos. How do you even start this conversation? So yeah, totally see the same thing. It's like you said, the soft skills. I heard a psychologist say that the soft skills are the hard skills, and until we start realizing, as an industry, like in business, that's not actually that's the case. That's hard to manage, and it's probably some of the most important skills to manage. We're going to be stifling our growth. So I think that's the same thing in agriculture as well.
I love it. And as a note, if you're watching along or listening, we'll put show notes, links to all of this in the show notes. Some of those episodes, I'll try and find them on Communication to your podcast. We'll put that all in the show notes for our audience. Okay. So you said the women in ag, transition planning, soft skills, those are your popular episodes. I
would say, yeah, or topics that people tends to resonate with people. Yeah. Or just generally where people, it could be a more hard and fast topic. It could be like will and estate planning, which is, well, I guess that's maybe a soft skill too, but strategic planning, for example. But there could be some elements of that where people are, the audience or a farmer is listening and saying, yeah, that's true. I didn't think of it that way. And so it's just recognizing, like you said, like seeing yourself in some of this content.
Nice. You guys do a lot of events and some events with the young farmers still.
Right. Yep.
Okay, you are still doing that.
Yeah, we're still doing a Young Farmers Summit series, I think starting in November.
What are the topics?
I can send you the links to that too. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I'll put that in there. But
yeah,
what is the main things? And I think I wanted to ask you that a little bit later, but what are you guys sharing with young farmers? Like at those events, is it a lot of transition planning, business planning?
Yeah. There's a variety of things. Transition planning, we've touched on financial topics before. We've mental health. I think we're bringing back some mental health content again this go round. And so, yeah, it's kind of a variety of things. It's also an opportunity for farmers to network also. So, like speaking about the isolation on the farm again too, and a lot of the younger farmers nowadays have gone off to college or university, have built networks, but they don't get a chance to connect with those networks face to face. So this is a good opportunity for that. And yeah, so it's a variety of things, and it's just they're great days.
I went, I think 2 years in a row in Winnipeg, and exactly like you said, a lot of my university classmates were there. So it was like a big reunion. We listened to the day and then did some networking. I'm curious, can I sneak in at 42? I think I'm too.
Oh, yes.
Can I sneak in?
Don't ID at the door.
Okay, then I might sneak in because actually,
yes, you should.
Funny. Did you do last year? I can't remember. I was looking. I'm like, well, I'm too old to go now. So then I didn't go.
We get that question a lot, and our answer, don't worry, we don't ID at the door. It's you can go at whatever age you want. If you feel like you can connect with the crowd that's going to be there, then go for it. Yeah.
Okay, then I'm
the
totally
content.
Going. Yeah. I'm going this year.
Do it.
They're going to be on the lookout for me. Tracy coming in, she's 42.
Yeah, you admitted it now.
Yeah, because I think, do you guys actually define the young farmer?
Well, we say it's meant for producers under or 40 and under, but
yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. Okay.
40 is a mindset, really.
I think I'm holding up well.
I think you're fine. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So I'll go into that a little bit more. The podcast that you guys do and put out is one of many content streams, one of many support systems for farmers. If somebody's watching and they're particularly interested in transition planning, do you want to speak to FCC and what you guys do and offer, events, programs, that kind of stuff that really just touches on transition planning? Do you want to go into that a little bit more?
Yep. for sure. So, first of all, we have a program of national business advisors across the country that will consult with farming families, and they like to say they help producers get unstuck, or farming families get unstuck. So they don't drop the plans for them or do all the work or provide legal counsel. Obviously, that's for the lawyers, but they do start help get that conversation started and help with some next steps. So that's available on our website for customers and non-customers. People can go and access that.
Okay.
We have resources, checklists, and things that people can kind of follow to give them a guideline of what they can do if they want to DIY it a little bit. We've got all sorts of little resources, and like even things like sweat equity calculators and things like that, so people can go in and see, pertaining what they're really struggling with or what do they need a little bit of a hand with. We've got a whole section on the knowledge section of our website devoted to transition. So there's, if you're more of a reader, there's articles in there, and again, we've got an outline where you can go step by step and read a little bit more in detail about all these things. There's some guides. So there's we have a whole bunch of resources on our website, and then we have them in person or virtual offering. And then we do some events too throughout the year. Depends on availability and presenters, but we generally, like we said, the Young Farmers Summits traditionally have a component of transition in there, whether it be from a specialist or it's from a producer that's gone through the process. And then our previous events too, we've got content too, and videos and things like that too that are on our website. So pretty much however you like to consume or learn, it's available to you. Yeah.
Okay. I'll put links in the show notes.
Sounds
I want
great.
to talk about that. If you can't tell, transition planning is really hot on my mind. And actually, that's why I started this show, business, but transition planning kind of went away. And then now just really looking and going, oh my goodness, we have some farms to transition. Let's put some focus here. So I know if it's your popular episodes, ours, that's where we're focusing. I really want you to touch on that because you guys do such a fantastic job of creating content and resources. I love FCC for that.
Oh, well, thank you.
You're very welcome. I mean, you guys really are the ones leading the way and putting so much great content and events out there. So I've always said, and as soon as you launched the advisor program, like where you meet with farm families about transition, I'm like, hallelujah, because correct me if I'm wrong, that kind of touches on that soft skills. That's where FCC comes in and helps the farm family. It's like, let's talk about and figure this part out, right?
And with a third party that's not emotionally invested in the farm, right?
Yeah.
That's a game changer, I think.
Totally. Okay, so that's the transition planning support materials, and we'll put all the links in. Is there anything else that you want to share about the podcast, your upcoming episodes? I just wanted to, maybe at the end, I'm going to ask you for a sneak peek on one of the next ones. You can share if you want to or not. But at the end of the day, when you guys sat down to create the podcast and said, this is what we should do, we're going to do a podcast. What was the mission behind that? And then getting into that feeling, thinking state. When somebody listens to your podcast, what do you want them to feel, think, do after that? I'm always curious.
Well, I think when we first launched this podcast, it was more, here's another channel that we can reach producers with. And like I said, there's different options. People learn in different ways, and people have different availabilities and different time constraints. A podcast is great. I love it. I can listen to it while I'm washing dishes at night, or if I'm going for a walk, or if I'm in my car. So there's so many different ways you can consume that content, and you don't have to specifically sit down and read or watch. And so that was kind of the biggest thing, is meet people where they're at. And then we've always prioritized helping or offering the ag industry knowledge and resources to help move their business forward. And so this is another avenue for that. So that was a natural dovetail into where the topic was going to go. So at the end of the day, what I hope that a listener really gets from this podcast would be, obviously when you're listening to a podcast, most people don't take notes, detailed notes about what they should be doing. If they're really, really compelled, they'll go to the show notes and click on some links. So at the end of the day, I'm just hoping that one or two ideas can resonate with a producer and they can think about how they could apply that idea or be inspired by that idea in their own business, and maybe think about one next step that they can take. Because I mean, if you give someone 25 next steps, they're not going to do anything. But if there's one thing that they can take away from that and start running with it, then I think that mission is accomplished.
I love it. That's kind of same with my mission too, is give them a gold nugget to think about and then they can just run with it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, this has been a lovely chat.
Yeah, for me too.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. We work with you guys and promote your content, and we're always happy to do that. Any last thoughts about transition, your podcast, any of that good stuff that you want to leave the audience with? If not, can I ask you for a sneak peek on one episode coming up? So I'll leave that for you.
Sounds good. So what I would say in terms of one last thing I want to say about our podcast is that it's only as good as the ideas that come to me. So I would love for people to drop comments and suggestions for topics that they would want us to explore. I know it's a pain in the butt. Not everybody always, when you rate this app or rate this thing, it's not everybody takes the time to do that, but it does help us figure out what people want to hear, because otherwise it's us coming up with ideas. And I mean, I'm married to a farmer. I can I can market test things or test market things with him, but it's nice to have ideas of what our listeners actually want to listen to. In terms of a sneak peek, our next episode is going to be with a dairy farmer out of Quebec, and she's involved in a Living Labs program. The Dairy Farmers of Canada have set a goal to be carbon neutral by 2050, I believe. And so Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada have set up Living Lab programs across the country to actually test some sustainability concepts or some best practices, or to develop some or figure out what best practices are in the sustainability space across different sectors of ag. So in Quebec, they're testing carbon neutrality or business practices or production practices that could help them achieve this carbon neutrality that could apply to dairy producers across Canada. So it's really cool. They were really gung-ho to get involved in this project, and she's got a very pragmatic approach to it that, not everybody can be involved in research projects. You have to have the time and the capacity and the willingness, obviously, but she's really excited about it, and there's some really cool things that they're testing, and she's just super proud to be part of this program and also help develop some best practices or find some best practices that could be applicable to her counterparts across the country. So I spoke to her the other day, and it was awesome. So it left me with it filled my bucket, because I know farmers are trying to do the best they can and improve every day. And this is just a perfect example of what our farmers are up to.
Oh, I love it. That sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that being said, if a producer is listening and they want to check out the podcast, where can they do so? Where can they subscribe?
So we're on all the podcast players. We're on Apple, Spotify, I think iHeartRadio, pretty much everyone. You can go to our YouTube channel. There's a podcast tab on there. We just added all of our old episodes on there too. And then on our website too, if you Google search if you search podcasts right on our website, you'll have the write-up, and you can listen to all the seasons. So pretty much wherever you want, you can listen to our podcast. And if you just search FCC Knowledge or Talking Farm and Food, they should both pop up.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining me. This was a lovely conversation. Thank you.
Thanks, Tracy. I really enjoyed it too.
It was fun and my pleasure. I'm so happy to have you on the show. You guys in the audience, if you are always looking to improve your farm operation and want a fantastic podcast in the rotation, go to the show notes or just look it up on your podcast player and tune in to FCC's podcast. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Impact Farming. For more great episodes and articles designed to help you manage and grow your farming operation, head on over to farmmarketer.com. Don't forget to sign up while you're there. We will see you on the next episode.